Heyo, Packer fans, what's going on? Welcome to the Packers Trilogy podcast presented by the Wisconsin Sports Trilogy, the podcast for diehard Packer fans by diehard Packer fans. I am your host, Trevor. You can find me on Twitter at Bender_Trevor. You can always find my writing at Dairyland Express, and I'm joined, as always, with my two good buddies, Tyler, aka T Plush, and Scott, the Vanilla Gorilla. You can find Tyler on Twitter at Tyler Kurth and find his writing at Reviewing the Brew. And you can find Scott on Twitter at Vanilla7Gorilla. As always, you can find our podcast and all of our content at Trilogy_pod. And that you can go to Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, and also now on YouTube as well. Make sure you check us out on all of those different locations. Today we are going to look forward to the Lions and preview that game like we always do. We'll also take a brief look back at the Eagles game, considering these two decided just not to podcast with me after that game. But before we get to that, how are you two doing?
I'm doing well. In my defense, I just exercised my mid-season bye week after last week's game, so that's my excuse. I was actually really tired, which is an even worse excuse, but caught up on some sleep. I think I went to bed at like 9 o'clock last night, which is super early for me, so I'm ready to go today.
Yeah, I don't have an excuse, but I'm here today. And it's good to be back. As the guys know, I have a new laptop, so I'm very excited. This is my first podcast with it. My last one gave me many migraines just trying to upload these podcasts. You guys have no goddamn clue how long it would take me to upload a 20-minute podcast on that computer. So good riddance.
Yeah, it's nice to not have to wait for your computer to reboot for 35 minutes to an hour and 35 minutes. So that will be great.
Yeah.
So let's just dive right into this because I want to look back at this Eagles game and get your guys' thoughts from that. As I said, as you rudely didn't show up the last time. But I want to talk about that and what your guys' thoughts were from that game. Kind of your overall talking points. We won't go super in depth, but what are just some thoughts? Tyler, I'll have you start.
Yeah, I just wanted to start with Darnell Savage because he's been on a pretty good run here as of late. He's had interceptions each of the last two games. If you back up to 3 weeks ago, he recovered that fumble against the Colts. So putting up together some good performances. Pro Football Focus wasn't a big, or at least his PFF grade wasn't like really all that impressive against the Eagles. Which I think was pretty accurate, but he's showing the ability to make some big-time plays. And he's kind of been up and down as we thought all season, but then I ran across the stat today that says opposing QBs have a rating of 66.4 against him this year, which is 7th best in the NFL. So, I mean, for a second-year player who's really come on, especially as of late over the last 3 weeks, like I said, I love it, and he came up big with a nice interception, courtesy of the tip, granted, in this last Eagles game, but just wanted to shout out to Savage for being a savage.
Yeah, he has been good, and I'm not really sure of that grade either in the Eagles game. It's terrible. It's not just like not good. It's terrible. They gave him a 37.5, which it doesn't really make sense to me. They have his coverage grade at a 34.4. He gave up one reception. Granted, it was for 41 yards, but he literally fell down on the play. So I don't know how you can dock him that much in the coverage grade. I was very, very confused by that. Against Chicago, he had the 96.3 for his overall grade. His coverage grade was 95. I don't think they were that different of games. They threw at him 3 times. He allowed the one reception. Again, that was when he fell down. you got to stay on your feet, but also I don't know how they downgraded him that much. I thought he had a good game. And to me, that 37 does not make any sense to what I was watching on the TV. Scott, what were your overall thoughts looking back at that Eagles game?
I kind of just wanted to shout out Aaron Rodgers, man. Made it to 400 career touchdowns. Dude's on pace for his second highest career passer rating, right in between his 2 MVP seasons. Right now he's at 118.5, 36 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and last game was just a spectacular one. 3 touchdowns, almost 300 yards, 128.9 rating. And then, of course, you got Devontae Adams saying that he needed to get that touchdown for Rodgers. So I was disrespectful on that after he caught the pass and then made his way into the end zone. So just God. Sometimes I know we don't take him for granted, but sometimes we just don't talk about him enough because we're so used to his greatness. So, yeah, big props to him and another great game for him.
Yeah, he really has been amazing this year. Just because I have him pulled up, I pulled him up on PFF. You know, he's been incredible. He's had 2 games under 60. The first one was against Tampa Bay, the second one against the Colts. He's had 2 games in the 70s, and the rest are 80 or above, which is really damn good. You compare him to some of the other quarterbacks in the league. Per PFF grades, the overall grade, he's the best. Passing grade, he's the best. It's really, he's very, very impressive, and he has been all year. He is kind of back to that MVP Rodgers, which I didn't think we were going to be able to get back to, and he's there this year. Then you compare that to Football Outsiders, you know, he's second in just about everything behind Patrick Mahomes, who's first in just about everything with their advanced stats. So very impressive stuff from Aaron Rodgers. And you're right, Scott, he definitely deserves a shout out because he has been absolutely incredible this year. This entire year, he's been great. You know, one really bad game, one meh game, and then the rest have been really good. And that's awesome. He deserves MVP talk, and he could rightfully get it because Patrick Mahomes has a better football team. So similar stats, similar play. Let's give the edge to the guy who has not quite the same players around him. But that's a discussion for another time. Let's move ahead to the Lions preview now. As always, we'll start with the Packers injury report. If you have not heard, not great news there. 3 players were actually put on IR. Tyler Ervin, Billy Wynn, and Raven Green. Tyler Ervin, Raven Green have had significant roles. I think Billy Wynn, even though he hasn't had a lot of significant time, it seems like when he was out there, he was making plays on a pretty regular basis. So definitely taking some hits there. I imagine we will see Tavon Austin with Tyler Ervin going down. I imagine he will be activated for this game. And we'll have to see what happens with that, you know, nickel linebacker, dime linebacker safety hybrid role there that Raven Green has. Does that mean more Kamal Martin? You know, does that mean Chris Barnes is going to be able to come back and play that role a little bit? We'll have to kind of wait and see what happens with that spot. But let's move ahead to players that are on the active roster. There were 2 that did not participate in practice on Wednesday. Equinemius St. Brown with a knee/concussion and Jay Sternberger with a concussion. That, you know, in the concussion protocol, we'll have to see what happens with those 2. Limited participants, there's quite a few of them. Chris Barnes, Kevin King, Alan Lazard, Mercedes Lewis, Lucas Patrick, J.K. Scott, Vernon Scott, Simon Stepaniak, and Rick Wagner. And there was 2 players listed on the injury report, but were full participants, and that's Jair Alexander and Zadarius Smith. Moving ahead to the Lions injury report, they had 4 did not participate, the main one being Kenny Galladay, then Jeff Okudah, CJ Moore, and Tyrell Crosby. And they had some limited participants as well. Austin Bryant, Deshaun Hand, Kerryon Johnson, Matthew Stafford was limited, and DeAndre Swift. So I feel like there's some fairly significant names on both sides of the injury report this week. So that will be definitely something to monitor moving forward. But let's talk about what the Packers need to do. What is one area they need to play well in or win in order to win this football game overall? Scott, we'll start with you.
I'm going to say keep their guys on the field. Stay healthy. I mean, right now you look at the Lions defense, they're not going to be stopping our elite offense, really. They're worst in points allowed per game. Sorry, second worst. And just horrible in yards allowed per game. So just making sure that we're keeping all those guys healthy. But you also look at their record, 5-7. It's a team that's got something they feel to prove. They got a changing staff, mid-season shift like that. You never know. These are the games that honestly really scare me because it's a game that you should definitely win. A team that's they just got rid of their coach and everything, so you don't expect what's coming, I guess. So just stay on their toes and stay healthy, and we should get the win.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the change in staff, like with Darrell Bevel coming on board there, getting the win that they did last week. Like they have momentum. Granted, against the Bears. Yeah. But I mean, like the Lions are going to play prideful in the rest of the year. I don't think they stand much of a chance at making the playoffs. I know. But yeah, I agree. It kind of scares me. And like when you have a team, they're going to go out there and play like it's week 1. They're going to give their full effort. And how are the Packers going to respond? Like sometimes during the year you can get stuck, just going through the motions. This is a game you should win, like Scott was mentioning. So, you can't just take this game for granted. So I agree. Like, don't fall into this trap. Like, go out there, execute, get the W.
Yeah, it should definitely be a game where the Packers win. And to bring Scott's point more into focus, they kind of agree with the raw stats of points per game and those things. PFF does. They are ranked dead last in overall defense per PFF, and their coverage grade is second worst, only ahead of the Jets. So not very good there for them. And then if you look at DVOA, again, worst ranked total defensive DVOA. Their pass DVOA is 29th in the league. Rush DVOA is 28th in the league. Just nothing is remotely good about that defense. Now, PFF does have them okay, slightly below average in terms of rushing the passer, about 20, 21. They're ranked in that regard. But with this Packers offensive line, I don't think it matters. They are very good at what they do, so I don't think the Lions really stand a chance there. And to me, it's just don't leave the door open to this team, because as much as they have been struggling this year, haven't been able to win consistently at all, you leave a team like this with the door open, Matthew Stafford is good enough to come back. And especially if Mike Pettin puts up the prevent defense like he loves to do, you can't allow that. Be up 14, 17 points. So that's not something that they can realistically come back from. And when they inevitably get one of those garbage time touchdowns to make it be like, oh, here we go, the offense just needs to finish the game. So there's nothing in particular that I think really the Lions do that can overly stress the Packers. I saw on Twitter people are worried about the Adrian Peterson running all over the Packers. He's washed. He's old. He got 41 yards against the Packers the last time, and 25 of them were because they didn't freaking just set the edge. They set the edge. That's probably a 1 yard loss because he had nowhere to go. But because they didn't set the edge, then he's got 25 yards on the edge. So they set the edge, and you look at that stat line, he's got a whole bunch of nothing. Like, there was, outside of that one run, he did not do anything against the Packers. He's had maybe 2 good games this year, 3 maybe, that he averaged above 4 yards a carry. The rest of them are 3, 2, and 1 yard a carry. He's not that good. Kerryon Johnson is limited. DeAndre Swift is limited. The run defense or the run offense for the Lions really shouldn't scare you. So to me, there's not a lot that scares me outside of Matthew Stafford being able to lead a comeback, because I think he's capable of that. And that just means this team needs to put a full 4 quarters together. And if they do that, I think they win this game pretty convincingly, like they did in week 2. Even if they felt, even falling down 14-3, they destroyed them. Tyler, did you put that stat up on Twitter of what they did after 14-3?
Yep.
What was it again? I can't remember.
After it's 14-3, we outscored them 39-7 the remainder of the game.
Yeah. So maybe I'm not expecting, 40s to 21 or something like that. Maybe it's not that lopsided again, but it very easily could be. And if it is, it's because this team plays all 4 quarters, and I just don't want this close, because the Lions seem to play us tough more often than they don't. And if we keep it close and give them a reason to keep playing hard, I just don't like that. And I don't need a heart attack this weekend. So let's avoid that. Let's move into our stat or matchup here. Tyler, we'll start with you on your stat.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Aaron Jones because the last time we played them in week 2, it was the Aaron Jones show. This was after this game. I was like full on sign him right now. I mean, he had 236 total yards in week 2, which I don't think is reproducible, but prove me wrong, Aaron Jones. I'd love to see it. He had 168 of those yards on the ground in week 2. And in fact, as a team, the Packers outrushed had more rushing yards than passing yards, 259 rushing to 220 or 240 passing. So I'm looking forward to what Aaron Jones can do this week. He managed to find the end zone on a crazy run last week, which kind of ended a mini drought for him. But now you got a team you had really good success against, and he's going to do some damage. So that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and he averaged 9.3 yards a carry. That is ridiculous. And then Jamal Williams, nowhere near as impressive of a game, but 8 carries for 63, which is just under 8 yards a carry. Just they couldn't remotely stop this rush offense. And then add in how Aaron Rodgers is playing, and good luck to this Lions defense. All right, Scott, what do you have for us in the stat and or matchup category?
Kind of bouncing off what you said, Trevor. I'm not too worried about their run game. So as far as matchup, I'm looking at our cornerbacks and going against Matthew Stafford. We talked about it before, me and you guys, about how Aaron Rodgers praised Matthew Stafford, said that doesn't ever get the respect he deserves. He's a good quarterback, and if anyone's gonna lead an upset against us, it's gonna be Matthew Stafford. So I just want to see how we can respond to him. Sometimes he can be one of our best players. Sometimes he can definitely catch us off guard. So I'll be watching that.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I have a lot of respect for Matthew Stafford. I think he's very, very good, but I think you're also right in saying that he can definitely have games where he just doesn't show up or doesn't play well, has some bad mistakes. So looking this year, he has been okay. I just pulled up his PFF grades just to kind of see where he's been ranking. He's had two really, really good games, one against Atlanta and the most recent against the Bears. And then there's a lot of 60s and 70s with a few below that sprinkled in. So he hasn't been a world beater by any means, but he also has been pretty consistently decent this year for that. So that's definitely something you got to monitor. For DVOA, he's ranked 18th. The DER stat from Football Outsiders, he's ranked 16th. So he has been, kind of middle of the road this season. But like I said, he can kind of be a great quarterback at any point because he does have all the talent that he needs to do that. So I'll go into my stats. So I'm just going to do a little shameless plug here. I did an article for Dairyland Express talking about Davante Adams being the best receiver in the league. So make sure you check that out. But for that, I actually signed up for the free 7-day trial of Football Outsiders. So that's why I have some DVOA stats today. So I figured since I have them, I'm going to kind of compile an average of different things. So we're going to go through kind of the same way I always do. We'll start with offense, we'll go to defense, we'll go to special teams, then we'll go to overall. I'm just going to look at the Packers this week. Offensively, points per game, they're first. Yards per game, they're second. Offensive DVOA, they're second. Offensive PFF, they are second. So if you average that out, that's 1.75. So we're going to say 2 for their overall offense through all of those different metrics. Defensively, I used points per game, yards per game, defensive DVOA, and defensive PFF grade, and I got an average of 16 there. Special teams, I just used DVOA and PFF and got an average, rounding up, is 25 for their ranking there. Overall statistics, so I looked at overall DVOA, overall PFF grade, and then I looked at point differential. And the point differential, they're 5th in the NFL, 2nd in the NFC for that metric. And then DVOA, they're ranked 5th. Overall PFF, they are ranked 4th. So again, if you round up, that would get you at overall for 5. So again, I'll run through it. They're ranked 2nd overall offensively, 16th defensively, 25th for special teams, and 5th overall. So like we talked about, the Lions don't kind of match up with that. We are a much better football team this year, and those stats kind of prove that. And I just wanted to see kind of what all the differences were. That's kind of why I wanted to do this. And I actually really enjoyed this because I went through the offensive part of it was 1, 2, 2, 2. So it was pretty consistent. Overall, it was pretty consistent with 5, 5, and 4. The defense was the big difference. Yards per game were ranked 11th in the league, and defensive DVOA from Football Outsiders ranks as 20th. So that's kind of the high and low there. Points per game and defensive PFF grade are kind of in between there. So that was a little interesting that there was basically one that was there was some big discrepancies, and that was defense. And I think that makes some sense with how this defense plays. It's very up and down, especially if you compare. I'd like to see the stats of what they rank in the first 3 quarters of football games versus what they rank in the 4th quarter, because I think that definitely brings them down. But I just wanted to compare those and kind of get a more overall sense from different outlets of how this team ranked. And overall, it's kind of what we expected. 5th overall team. I think we can argue they're better than that, but that's what those metrics are telling us. Offensively, 2. I think, we can understand why the Chiefs are ranked a little bit better than them in most of those categories. Defense, slightly, actually right at average. I'd probably say slightly below average, but overall, I agree with a lot of these metrics. So that is what I looked at for my stats. Unless you guys have anything else, let's go into game predictions. So Scott, you can start us off with your game prediction.
Oh God. Okay. My game prediction. My game prediction is 34-17. Packers win.
Oof, I thought you were going to steal mine for a second. I was about to be mad. Mine is 38-13. I almost went 38-6, saying the defense has been playing a lot better and not going to give up a touchdown this week, but it's the Packers. We give up a garbage time touchdown, so that's how they get to 13.
And Detroit scored 14 points in the first quarter last matchup, Tyler.
I know.
Okay. Okay.
They only scored 21 the whole game.
Yeah, I think the Packers are going to be able to score at will. So I said it earlier that I'm not saying that they'll score 40 points. Now I'm saying they're going to score 40 points. I'm going to put them at 45 because I just flat out don't think this defense is going to be able to stop them. I do think Detroit's going to be able to move the football and score some points. I have a lot of trust in Matthew Stafford, if I'm being honest. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's going to move the ball down the field. I think they're going to score some points, but it's not going to be close. So I'm going to say 45-24. And it's going to feel like that the whole time. Like it's not going to be 45-10 and they're going to score 14 garbage time points. No, I think it's going to be pretty consistent. You know, they're going to score a touchdown in the first, touchdown and field goal in the second, and then they're going to get a touchdown in the third or fourth. But it's going to be pretty consistent scoring wise for the Lions, and the Packers are just going to blow them out because that's what I think is going to happen because they're the better football team. So that will be it from us this week. Again, make sure you're checking out all of our different content. Tyler's writing at Reviewing the Brew, my writing at Dairyland Express. All of our podcasts, we're going to have a Bucks podcast coming out here talking probably about Giannis and Giannis only, if I had to guess. So make sure you check that out at Trilogy_pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook is the best way to get all of that stuff. And subscribe on YouTube because that would mean a world to us. So until next time, and we're recapping a Week 14 victory for the Green Bay Packers. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack.
We miss you, Jake Kumaro.